Okay, we are going to do the Easter class. Lots of people signed up, and I have a feeling that because this week was so crazy and there was no reminder, we are going to have a trickle in of people. And so I'm going to take control of the screen. That way anyone coming in won't accidentally bump the feed. And I'm going to turn that off. And hopefully we get this in one go round, no interruptions. I do have a backup. That's what I was just tapping in case my internet does crap out on me. So the first thing we're going to do is prep our board. So we're making this, and we are doing some Easter eggs, how to stamp them, as well as I'm going to recapture and hopefully do this in a better one take than the last time. Stamping and blowing an actual egg. This is real. This is not. Just so you know, these are the ones, they're watercolor eggs you buy at Michael's, the dollar store. This is a real egg. So I'm going to teach you how to blow the egg, stamp the egg, color the egg, seal the egg, whatever you want to know. Ooh, my eggs are getting a little sweaty too. So don't forget to have paper towel on hand to dry the eggs. And I'm going to switch the camera over so that we can focus only on what's happening here on the workstation. There's going to be a lot of stamping. So make sure you have a stays on ink pad, unless you want your outlines to be able to bleed, then you can go ahead or archival, anything of an archival nature, or you can use the distress ink if you wish. I'm going to start with the staining of my board. So here you can see I've stained it, and we are going to lift all of our pieces up and begin staining. This is the really fun part. I'm going to switch my screen. And hopefully, I'm going to just tilt the camera this way just a little for a bit more view of the board. Okay. So to do this, this is like the simplest task ever. You can water down acrylic paints, you can do whatever. But I like to cheat, and I like to use my Distress Ground Espresso ink. Super easy. I go direct pad to surface, and I begin by just rubbing it all over. Anywhere you want it a little darker, make sure you go over it a couple times. But this is like, I don't know, this is the funnest. You can do it with all kinds of colors. I've done it in the Distress Oxide for a more opaque look so that I don't see the grain as much. But today we're going for a full-on natural stain, kind of like trees outside. And also you should know, if you did get the board, you can use the smooth side if you wish. I like the grain on it, but for the purpose of this, because I want to measure, I'm going to use the little scored in lines so you can color them and make it look like a plank. All right. Then I'm going to do my magic trick, which is literally a cap full of water because it's easier than spritzing like a million times over. And I just take the water and I kind of sprinkle it everywhere. And then I grab my paintbrush and I begin painting. So I like to use a wider brush, wide flat brush. This one happens to be my Blue Ice by Dynasty. You can use anything, flat bristles. Different types of bristles can give you different dimension and such. So I tried to pause there while it froze. Anyway, so then I just go back and forth to bleed all this together. And then while this is setting up, it's a good idea too to go over your edges, your raw edges. So once I'm finished this, just like that, just that simple. That's how fast I did my board. I'll take the water brush and I will just try and catch this, go over my edges just a little, because I always believe that a finished product is a better product. So I just go and stain my edge as well. You can paint it, stain it, do whatever. I'm just tipping it up because I above the camera right now so that I can get it. And then of course I've got extra on my mat, so it's a good thing to just grab because I've just went to town. And just like that, your board can go sit to the side and dry while we do the rest of the activity. Okay. So there we go. Board is ready. I'm going to put it to the side and it can dry. You want it fully dry before we put the embossing powder on. So we're going to do some stenciling on that towards the end, but it takes seconds to do. And then you want to clean your workstation mat just a little bit because the next part you don't want to make a big mess on. I don't want the wet and the brown to re-examine my area a couple of times over. Okay. So then my next part, oh yeah, I took watercolors and I did the same thing on this. Again, we want it to dry while we're doing other stuff. So I'm going to take a few of my watercolors here. My blue one, a pink one, maybe a little bit of a green. And I'm just going to ink the whole thing. So I'm going to take a brush like this and some water, and I'm just going to go to the tin. These are the watercolors. This is the infused set. So this one is blueberry. And I'm just going to paint some on there. It doesn't have to be fancy because we're going to do the same water brush or water blending technique that we just did. That's nice and super fast and messy. Again, if you don't have watercolors, you could be using your regular inks and stains with it. Just gonna make sure I have a good coverage of blue. I'm gonna clean my brush off a bit before I go into my pink because you know I should have started with pink just because it's lighter, so it's harder to cross-contaminate when you go the other direction, but blue contaminates friggin' everything. I would know. I'm often colored in blue. So, see? Well, maybe you can't see it as well, but so I'm just going to get some of that paint and I'm going to rub it on here as well. Nothing too fancy. A bit of the green. Put that in there. Then we're going to do some pouring and some brushing like we just did so that we can start blending all these colors together to make our background. Where's my, so the reason I keep saying a capful, oh, I can use this one, is because usually I want to saturate a surface, but this time, oh, totally should have done that because that other color had too much in it. Anyway, just like that, a really simple, messy background. When it dries, you're going to be surprised at what comes through and what holds. And again, as always, make sure you hit your edges. This is just a little primed flat board from Michael's. It's just a little canvas board. It just acted as a nice frame, which is why I went to it. No particular reason. It was a good value for just acting as a frame up. So there we go. We'll let that dry as well. Oops, and then I put my thumb print in. Okay, and now the colors will all run together and do their fancy stuff. So move those. I'm going to quickly clean my fingers because when I touch the next thing, of course, I'm going to get stuff on it. If you do have a question, you are welcome to go off of mute and ask. You do not have to be silent. That's why we did the Zoom meeting. And as I said, I like using capfuls of water from a water bottle because then I can keep it pure and clean where now I'm starting to get dirty water already. Okay, and then the next part is the watercolor page. So this one you're going to end up cutting down. I'm just going to double check my sizing on my stamp here. Oops. I think I can get away with just cutting it in half, and that should fit on my board nicely. So I'm kind of going through, if you're wondering why didn't she cut it? Well, I gave people a whole sheet of paper so that they could see what the whole process would be like. Everything I do, I try to be quite intentional with. I don't remember what size that is. I'll go with that. I think it's the middle. Just eyeball it. Oh yeah, I picked the middle. I like it when that happens. And then to go on top of my board, I'm just going to grab it so you can see what I'm doing. So I'm creating a frame. So that'll sit on there, and that was the right size to do. So cut your page in half if you got one of the kits. And we will stamp our image on. So you can do this using your, like I have a Tim Holtz stamp thing, but I almost rarely ever use anything properly. So of course I misplaced it from lack of use. And I'll just freehand it. But if you have a Stampin' Buddy, it's really good to use because then you can press down a couple times. So if you don't get it dark enough the first time, you can go back again. Also, if you want to highlight, because I'm going to show you a little bit of highlighting technique on the stamp. So where I'm going to color in this and stamp it on, you'll get a perfect placement of the dots when you do it on the stamp. But anyway, so this one, by the way, is a Cindy Ohama stamp. She has an Easter collection of 2, and she has a Spring Babies collection of 2. She's our newest artist to join, Emerald Creek. She's going to be helping with the crossover to fine art because in May, we're going to do one for Father's Day where it's a canvas painted tree. And it uses embossing powder. It teaches how to do the canvas on point. So we're going to lift this. There we go. Not too bad. Wasn't quite as centered as I like, but I still love it. It's by like millimeters. And yes, my eye can see that. So then the next thing we do is we're just going to color our bunny with our paints. I'm not going to use very much blue because blue infusion, with my brown. I have a gimped up, with my gimped up brown. Blueberry and coffee do not go together on a scent basis, just so you know. So use a regular blue if you want with the coffee, or just a regular brown with the blueberry. Please don't try mixing them because it's stinky. So I'm going to take my brown and just go in there. This is a botched paint I'm using. Just so you know, they are always dry cakes that you can use. Wet them down, they'll dry out. You can put the lid on, they don't run. This one never set up, so I use it because why not? Why waste when I don't have to? I'm just going to come in here a little bit with my paintbrush. Don't ask me about why I use the paintbrushes I do, because I don't really know paintbrushes. I just know I can get a good result when I'm using something that's angled like this and gives me a little bit of a fan. That helps me. I'm not a brush proficient person. I always did more of the oil pastels and crayon kind of coloring. So this for me is just fun. I just like getting the layers down quickly. Just really want to pick up a bit more brown and hit all the edges here. Going to leave him a little pink belly and pink feet. So then once I've got enough color down with this, then I'm going to go back with my really finer brush. Oh, except I have the wrong brush here. We're going to go back in with just the tip of this one then. Again, what makes it great is when you don't have all the tools, you can make it work. I'm just going to wet my brush down just slightly and then start blending. And this is why watercolor paper is nice, because it takes so little water to really pull your colors across, and you don't have to worry about over blobbing or overstating. So my brush is virtually dry. So I want to give this little bunny a bit of pink in the ear. So I'm going to clean my brush off as well as I can. Just come into my pan. Sorry. Oh, dang it. I didn't get my brush as clean as I wanted. Just dry my water cake. That's the other thing you can do is always just pick up if you accidentally tint it, you just pick up the color onto your paper towel. And I'm going to add just a bit of pink into the ears. Onto his nose, onto his belly. I'm going to add a bit more of the brown in because I just want, ooh, that's got a big chunk on it. There we go. I'll just pull the two colors together here, the pink and brown. And I want to go straight up opaquish brown on the face. I think I'm going to give him a little spring green hat this time. Except I don't know where my green went. Under the chart gold. I'm going to pick up some of this green. I've been using it a lot today, so I'm going to, so this one smells like lemongrass, and oh my goodness, every time I do that, it just smells like the most beautiful thing in the room. So I'm just going to add a hint of green, deeper green along the thatch lines. That helps determine some of the shading for you. I like stamps that help with that. Then I'm going to clean my brush off again. Because I want to just take a very light pull of the water. And then I'm just going to slowly bring some of the water across and get that green to move. Maybe a little more water than I put on there. So it's really easy when you have some tools like a good stamp to give yourself a break and cut yourself some slack. You don't have to feel like you need to be the best artist to just sit and have fun. Now you can do this with Copics. You can do it with anything you want. It's just I happen to have really want to get a good amount of that pink right in the deep of that. I'm featuring the watercolors today, but I do enjoy using my Copics. Well, I don't do Copics, but I know my sister does. And I enjoy using crayons and felt pens. I often watercolor, though. I can't lie about that. I'm just going to add just a hint of light pink throughout the paw. Just kind of pull it across. And the pink is just grabbing that extra pink that's on my brush and a little bit of the brown. Just kind of pulling it through. So I've got definition. He's looking so cute. I really like him. Oh, and my ear. I forgot to actually blend the ears in. So if you happen to buy our heat set watercolor, you could actually set that before you start doing the extra colors, and you won't have your other tints blend, but the aromas do not heat set. So don't be alarmed by that. If you want to know more about heat setting, just give me a call. We can set up a time I can walk you through it. So I'm going to add just a bit of blue on this one. And I'll go back and do, so I'm going to bring in my blue like this. And I really want to catch just a much deeper, richer color right in that area. And I'm going to clean this off. No, I wished I brought a couple of extra colors. Oh, I have a red one here. Okay, good. So here's my red, which maybe I'll put a little bit right here on his nose, just a little pop, a little bit more zazz. I'm just going to do a bit of red on this Easter egg here. This one is the infused cinnamon. It's called Cinnamon Kisses. What I think I would have liked, or what I do like, is I would have liked to have grabbed my shimmery one, because we also have the heat set red and actually some really vibrant, beautiful heat set colors. But because I didn't, I'm going to actually grab my moonstone and go over top of it a little bit with the moonstone, which will give it a pink hue. But this is a white shimmer. Oh, dang it. That's not the white shimmer. Never mind. I'm going to use the diamond and go over just a little. We'll give it a bit of an orange hue, but then I get a bit of a shimmer on there as well, because these ones can be heat set and they have shimmer to them. So you might not be able to see it, but it definitely sparkle shimmers. And they blend together nicely. If you want it to not move, then you would do the heat set one, set it down. Then you could go over top of it, and instead of blending into an orange color, you would end up with yellow and then the red over top, no orange. I'm going to use just a bit more of the green. I'm just going to come in here at the grass and just give a bit more. This is why I love this angle brush, because it allows me to get a bit more of that grassy detail, a little bit more pull. And I'm just going to not necessarily heat set it, but speed up some of the drying so that when I go back with the water, I don't fully pull all of the color. There's two settings. I use the Wagner tool. Again, this one is more for drying. This one is for setting embossing powder. So I'm just going to go over it slightly. And I'm going to take my water and ease up a bit. And then I'm just going to pull it through, just so that I don't quite yank all of the color out. There we go. I don't know if that works on every single embossing or watercolor paint, but it's just something I do so that I have more chance to play and pull without wrecking all of the highlight or low light and shading and things. So really want to get in close with that green. I don't like the free floating egg, the free floating bunny bum, like it's floating on the grass, above the grass. It's a possessed bunny. Okay, so there, that one's done. Super simple. That was everything. Now I took a little bit of this to create a frame edge, and I just went along the edges. And then I took a little bit of the blue and made the sky. I'm going to do that for you. Again, this one is just a distress ink. I just believe in frames. I can't help it. My sister was in a framing shop. She taught me about frames. It stuck. Framing everything is always so good. That's what that boils down to. So just creating that little bit of an edge. And then I'm going to go back over it with the water. But the reason for the edge is because when I do put it on the board, and I could have embossed it, I could do anything for my frame. This is just really quick. It'll give you a finished frame look. But then instead of running off, and actually I'll stop before I do the last side. Instead of having it run off the image, you may want it to. But I feel like this will pull into the image so you're focused on it, where if you had just done this piece here, it kind of floats off and doesn't have as lasting an impact. So I always like to frame up my edge. That way it's an image with a frame for the board. Kind of gives you where we're going there. I hope that helps. Again, if you have questions or want to know more, this is also what will distinguish artists that we use on a regular basis for design projects, is that ability to completely think it through and finish an entire project instead of leaving me with something that has raw edges. So that's something I look for in case you're curious and you're like, oh, I think I could do this and I want to be a designer. Know that I always look for the trim and the finish edge. If this had been cut and raw, I will notice that and might pass you over, even though you may have done the most beautiful thing up top. However, I also will take time to explain to you what it is. And if you want to adapt, then I'm good to go with it. And not to say that you can't have raw edges. Sometimes when they're intentional, it makes a lot of sense. So here I am just putting a little bit of that on. And I really want to make sure this is clean when I do it. So I'm going to pour water direct on so you can see my water bottle direct to my mat so that when I pick this up, I hopefully just get water and not a bunch of other color. I'm just going to come in here and give it a bit of a wet down, move that blue a bit. Ooh, it's set up really quick. I think I put it on very well. Grab some more water and just kind of, there we go. So as you can see, there's always a way to fix the little line that I created because it dried, set up so quick. You can come in after the fact and highlight your blues right down to the grass because I don't want the grass free floating. I'm going to come back at my grass as well. I'm going to take a bit more of the clean water on the mat in a new spot and my green, which I've left over here. I'm just going to pull a little bit more because I want to make sure that it doesn't seem quite so free floating. There we go. Okay, so that's ready. And that's going to dry. So we're going to move it. See if I can give you a good angle there showing all the highlights and lowlights. Feel like even though I can see it because it didn't come up very well in yours, I want to add just a bit more blue in this area because it felt a little weak compared to the other spots. Okay. Also, once this dries, you're going to notice it'll curl. I learned a trick from Seth Apter to turn it over, spritz it a bit with water on the back, and then it will, and then dry it, and it'll pull it back the other direction. So I'll show you that at the end. So don't panic if yours is curling. Okay. So while that stuff is all drying, we're going to prep our board, our chipboard. So on the actual board that we're making, we had a couple pieces. So I'm going to take just a couple pieces that I think I like, and I'm going to just break them off so that I want to make sure that I have good points here. Yeah. I'm going to just clip them out. This one will probably work better. So this has my wire cutters on the end. So I'm just going to use it to clamp. Oh no, it's not working. I want that piece. And I wanted it to go all the way around. So that if it tucks under my board there, then my next piece I want is going to be way over here. I'm going to cut out this one as well. And there's a reason. I'm going to show you how we're going to utilize it to tuck under. Okay. And then I want a couple of spokes. So one there. There. So that'll be my first piece. And I'm going to use this piece here to leverage underneath when I get it set up. And then I want another piece for over here. So I think, what piece do I want off of here? I feel like I want this inner piece. So I'm going to go along and cut really tight to this board. We do have these on sale if you want to get extra barbed wire. I find they're really easy to work with and to really add a pop. I mean, I think I said it's really easy to work with because several times today, but that's my thing. If it's not easy to work with, I tend not to want to work with it because some people have time, and I appreciate the people who have time to sit there, but I'm thinking like 10 steps ahead. When is my dog going to interrupt? When is my kids going to interrupt? So I feel like I never have quite the perfect amount of time. I come all the way over to here. So to bend these to get them ready, I actually did it while it was dry like this. So I just added a bit of water. I'm going to just grab my brush. Oops. Just a tiny bit of water to my chipboard, and then just kind of molded it and gave it a minute to heat up or dry. You can dry it with your dryer. Because I know I'm going to go straight over top of it with an embossing ink, I don't care. I'm going to catch it all because I've done this before. But if it makes you nervous, go ahead and dry it so that it's ready to be shaped. And then the same thing here. I'm going to take this piece. I want it to make sure it bends in. And this just helps the chipboard actually bend without ripping, because you don't want really bad seams. Sorry, let me keep this. So I just work it together. Had I done this right here would have been a full rip, but because I wet it down, it's not. So I'm just going to go along and kind of pinch it in a little. That way I can play with it and hook it under my board and I'll be good. So these two are ready for embossing. The reason we're doing the prep on the board first is clearly it's the longer thing. It's got more drying pieces. I'm just going to grab my paper here. And I'm going to cover up my ink because it's probably drying. That one. So then I'm going to use the Ranger one with a paintbrush. And I'm just going to paint over it. So I just stick my brush in there. You can squeeze it out on your mat, whatever you want to do. I'm actually going to let some of it off so that I can pick it up later. And I'm just going to go over the whole thing. Again, remember to get your edges because that's the super important part when doing these kinds of things. Because you want to make sure you get the full coverage and don't have the raw edges unless intended. To make it matte, my sister, again, Vicky, Dig That Crazy Chick. She also taught me that a fine grit sandpaper, so anything that's like a 300, 400 is good to try and buff. You can sand it down and get a matte look. So definitely feel free to do that. I'm going to show you a technique I use my thumb with. That will hopefully help you. I don't know what's going to stick out. I'm hoping that doesn't, but because it might, I'm gluing it down. Okay, so now we've inked everything. You get a lot of playability when you use an embossing ink, which is why over water and things it is superior. But you can just use regular inks if you're doing lots of little sections. I'm going to flip over my sheet because I don't want the ink or the powder to stick to the ink. So I'm just going to go direct to the paper here and just start sprinkling. This is charred gold. Okay, so that one's ready. And we'll go over this one. I'll be out of. So I'm just gonna half scoop up so I can finish sprinkling over top. Another reason why we like the bags over other things is because you can do that much easier. And I'm gonna take this, oh, I don't want a hair. I don't need my DNA resonating on my art more than it probably already will. I'll also take it and tap it in, especially once I've done the first melt. If I see that there's a missing spot while it's hot, I'll just tip it in. So then I'm going to take this, quickly fold it up using my other hand. So it looks like this. I'm just going to dump it in. And we're good to go for another round. We'll grab our heat tool and we're going to melt. Okay. So that will only take seconds. You can see it heats up and dries really quick. So to give it a tarnished look, see how it kind of reflects? I mean, it gets really quite glary. I'm going to take my thumb and I'm just going to rub a section of it. And it really ages the piece. So now when I tip it up, get it, you can see it does not catch the glare the same as up here. It's a great way to matte finish, but still keep it just enough of the gloss so that you've got a pretty and beautiful finish that's aged well. Where's my camera? There. And that's all I did. Take it from here where it's super glossy and shiny and just go ahead and matte it down with your thumb. Simple. See how it just stops that extra glare and it really brings out the original color. So no matter where you are, you don't always have that plastic shiny. So there you go. That's how we do that. This can sit to the side until we're ready to glue the other one together, which is going to be very soon. I'm just going to do this on the other side. All right, so my pieces are ready. We'll just tuck them to the side. And while the stuff finishes its drying process before we get to stenciling on there, I'm going to give this a quick wipe down. And we are going to learn about stamping eggs. This is a super fun, easy project. I've been doing it with my kids all week. We're going to start with one like this. So we're going to take the chicks and we're going to do this time. I haven't done them with embossing ink yet because they're so detailed, but I'm going to give it a shot. So we're just going to brush our ink. You want to brush very lightly because if you go too heavy, you'll end up filling the holes and losing the detail of the image. So I'm going to take one of the fake eggs and I'm just going to start here and I'm going to rock and roll up and down and turn my fingers all the way around and spin. It's very important that you do it with two hands and very steady. Otherwise you'll lose your image. Oh, my hand is filthy from the other. There you can almost see. Let's get some of the glare out of there. Let me try. There we go. So now you can see I've got the ink on there. That was transfer from the black that I never washed off from before. And we're going to take a clean piece of paper and Easter parade. So I do keep some of it in squeezy bottle containers because I do a lot of stuff. I sell them in these packs. Just, you know, embossing powder comes like this. If you got the kit, you got the simple sample pack. That way it makes it cost effective. Yes, we do sell sample packs for stores. And then this is my squeeze bottle because I have half a pound in here because I use these things so often. So I'm going to just go along and tap it off. And you can see, oh, I forgot to put the hole in. So I'm going to put the hole in the egg. Because these paper eggs are the way they are, they will warp because they're like, what they did was kind of like prime coat plastic, the typical plastic eggs. So I'm going to punch this hole in the bottom. Oh, maybe. Oh, dang it. I just wrecked my image. I'll fix that later. Come on. Okay, so I've got a small hole started and I'm going to take a big hole and pop it in there. You need a way for the heat to escape or else you'll get like a warped rotting egg. So I'm just going to push. Oh, you guys are going to watch me injure myself, I'm sure. Come here. Little screwdriver. I always have a little knife with me. I don't know where it is. Okay, bigger hole. And I'm going to take all that color off and I'm going to do it again. Oh, my hands are filthy. I'm going to go back and fix my hand too. So we'll start again because I've done this in out of order. There we go. So hole on the top, hole on the bottom. That way the heat can come out. Now I'm just going to wipe my egg down because I just totally botched it. And I'm going to just start over again. Just so you know, powder's dry. Ink can be wiped off. You start with a dry surface again and you're good to go. So that's what I'm doing. Just starting my surface over. I'm going to repaint that with a bit more ink. Okay. So back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, turning, turning, turning. There. Okay. The reason back and forth is because of the shape of an egg, you'll end up with a weird line that doesn't complete your image. So I just tend to do that. And just, there we go. This is also why I gave so many eggs in the kit, so that if you botch one, you can always start again. There we go. I've got the powder on. And yes, I do the flick a lot. Some people say don't flick. I say flick. If you've got a good ink, it's going to hold where you need it to. And then I'm going to turn this on. I'm going to hold it from further away this time. Ooh. Ooh, hot. Oops. You can see I've left my egg behind. All right. So that's just simple how to put some embossing powder up on an egg. Oh, that light, I've got to turn it off for a second. It's causing an extra glare that we don't need to deal with. Try not to burn my chest on the glue gun while I reach. There. Maybe that'll help. Yes. Oops. You got all my messy hands in the goop. So here we go again. I'm going to use the StazOn this time and not emboss. Now I'm going to use the big bunny again. Actually, I'm going to use the little rabbit first because he's so freaking cute and he's so easy to color with the brown ink and the pink. So take him. Make sure my egg is clean. So we're just going to watercolor this one. You're going to start at the edge and just push against it, going back and forth, rolling slowly. You may need to do it a couple times, but there you go. My bunny is now on the ink or on the egg, and I can go ahead and color him. And it didn't take me very long to create a nicely finished egg. So I'm going to do, actually, instead of the bunny, I want to put the fawn on the other side because why not? So I've got this little fawn. He's a little taller, give you an idea. Again, with the rocking technique. I'm going to start here and I'm just going to go back and forth, back and forth. It's very important to go very small motions. I'm hoping this one I did right because that one felt a little different. Oh, yep, see? And there he is. So but you have to do that rock motion. I'm hoping that you're understanding what I'm saying and that the video of it is pretty good. So then once you have that done, you go grab your water and your watercolor. I'm just going to dump it on there. I'm going to go pick up, well, I've still got blue on my brush. I might as well just do a little bit of the blue sky around. Blue at the top. We'll just give him a little bit of a hint of blue. I tend to bring, because like most things, I tend to bring the blue down low, the grass up part way, because let's face it, there's way more sky that gets captured behind us in a photo than grass. And the nice thing is it doesn't have to be a lot of color. When it dries, it makes such a big impact on something that used to be white. So I'm going to go in with my brown. I'm just going to touch just a little bit of him with the brown. And then see how it's smeared? I'm just going to pat that off before it goes too far. These eggs give you a lot of playability, so that's nice. And we'll come in with a little bit of pink as well for the ears and stuff. I want it a little bit less, more brown, less water for a second. Let's put just a tiny bit of pink at the nose. It's a harder color to see, but I assure you that there is pink there and it's very pretty. Maybe just a dab of red just to help pull that pink up. And I'll just dab in here. And I will go over to my deer and I'll pull out the blue that got on him with my finger. And again, a little bit of brown. You could color it with Copic, anything you want, really, you can do on these eggs. They are very good for that. And again, some of them I got at Michael's, some I got at the dollar store. It's been a fun project for the kids because it's really easy for them to just go nuts. Ooh, and a pen that I really did like was the Spectrum Noir to add shimmer as well. That had some really dark, bold shimmers. That was really pretty. And a little bit of pink as always into the ears. All right, and then some green. Let's go in with the green. I'm folding green all around. So there you have stamping and watercoloring an egg. Not too complicated, nothing you have to stress over. They get more perfect the more you go. My daughter and I, she is 7, and it did take a little bit of practice to get her rock and roll technique, but she was able to master it. So I think if the 7-year-old can do it, you just have to remember to stop, breathe, and try again. Again, 6 eggs. They're like a couple of dollars at the dollar store. Free if you use your own real eggs. But there you go. Now we have a little bunny. I'm going to clean my station because now we're going to blow an egg, and then I'm going to go back and I'm going to assemble the other kit, and you can see the finished result. I need a new, I don't normally go through that much paper towel. And my legs are sore. Sorry, I have the roll off to the side thinking I wouldn't need to step out of the camera, but I definitely had to. Okay. Here we go again. So now what we're going to do is blow an egg. So these are my real eggs here. I'm actually going to try and wash my hands a little because it can get really messy. You might need some alcohol. Alcohol will take off. Oh, also, if you've got a lot of dye on your hands, I learned that eye makeup remover is excellent for helping get rid of it. My finger, which still has a remnant of blue at the knuckle, barely, was completely blue from here to here. I can't remember what I did, but the blue shot down and stained me for a couple of days. And I found that eye remover really worked. Okay, so real egg. In order to rock and roll, you cannot blow your egg first. Yes, I said it like that. Very important that you understand that, because if you do an egg without yolk in it and you go to push and do the rock and roll, you will shatter your egg because they become more fragile. So I'm going to use a bigger stamp so that you get an idea. Trying to think. So you get an idea of how this will work. This is a rose. And so I'm going to come across the rose and get as much of it as I can so that you can see it. It's a lot trickier, but really cool when it works. So again, ink it up with your archival ink. You want something that isn't watery. Ooh. I'm going to use, see here, my egg seems to be a little bit flawed. Because I can see that could potentially be a fracture line up from the inside. I'm going to turn my egg over so that that's towards the top, because I don't want to accidentally push and blow it out all over my table. Then I'm just going to start rocking and rolling. Again, bigger rocks, slower rolls. Hopefully doing it right. Let's see. Yes, so there's my flower, my rose. It's on there. And then to blow it. So this is going to dry in just a few seconds. Blow it. I brought an extra egg just in case. You know, one of those days. I'm going to use the tack. A tack is nice because you can kind of control it, but you need anything that can just poke in on the top and bottom. You have to go all the way in. So if you have noticed, there's like a skin on an egg when it comes out of a shell. You have to break that skin or else you will never get the yolk to pull through all the way. So I'm going to just push gently on the top, and I'm going to turn because I want to make it as big as I can. There. So that's a good one. That's a good size hole. That'll help my air go all the way through. And then on the bottom, same thing. I'm going to push. and turn. And see, okay, let me see if I see how there's a bit of a skin here, no skin, there's skin. That's what you really want to break through, because that's going to have to, that's where the egg yolk is going to have to come out of. So here we go. And the reason I always blow from the top is because I need this, I want the smaller part in, so it's pushing everything down. It's kind of like a funnel focus. And here we go. I'm coming down towards it, so you may get to see my cheeks puff out. We'll see. That duck sound is my mouth, just so you know. It is that bad. No, I need to help it. It's stuck. Basically boring a bigger hole here. Wow, that is one. Every now and then I get one that's super thick. Don't want to go any further. You can tell that's going to break otherwise. And when you can pass the air all the way through, you know you've got it well enough. Whew, that was a tough one. And there you have the egg. So now my egg is empty. You can cook with this, but just so you know, you would want to look for, like right here is a little piece of shell. So you will have fine shell. If you don't mind eggshell in food, go for it. If you do, give it to your dog or pet. If you want to strain it, go ahead and strain it. Okay, that is garbage. So now you've got your egg. It has been blown, and you can just go in and paint with any color. So of course I'm going to grab a bit of the red and just give you a taste of, you just come in with the red. This is a watercolor. You could use an ink, your Copic pens again. You can do anything you want. Like don't ever be confined by the wrong tool or a piece of equipment. You'll find that most of them work, and then you'll wonder why you're spending so much. But when I say that, just remember I manufacture, so please buy my stuff. I'm kidding. I do prefer seeing people use what they have and then adding to it as opposed to wasting resources. I'm a frugal person by nature. So I would highly recommend the same. Now, if I were thinking ahead, which I did not, I would have used my heat set water tool or watercolor. And that way I could have set all the shading really nice and dark before I went in with the lighter color. But I didn't. And yes, so heat set watercolor, you would set whatever colors you want. So say I wanted it looking like this, you would go in and you would cool it with the cooling setting, make sure it's nice and dry. And then you're going to go in and heat it for like 20, 30 seconds over areas. So if your heat tool can handle this, you're going to be like between 15 and 30 seconds here and 15 and 30 seconds over there. You have to make sure that it's hot, but it has to be pre-dried first. That's the only stipulation. If you don't pre-dry, it just doesn't work the same. And it won't set up permanently like you want it to. Because let's face it, it starts out as a watercolor. So the fact that we could get it to do that at all, I think is pretty amazing. But it's a tricky technique, and it is a technique. So I'm just going to come in here with that lemongrass again. This lemongrass one by far became my favorite. I love working with it. It's one of those, they're based off of aromatherapy, just so you wonder why. Again, a development through COVID, because COVID was so hard and different things. And because I make scented embossing powders, and I was watching people and I was kind of doing my own thing. And then one day all of a sudden I went, ooh, we should put that into a paint, because I do more painting than the embossing, because I color everything in now. And so that's how we developed a heat watercolor. I've got a little bit here. I'm going to go in with a yellow. So when I say heat set, I will do that for you right now. We're going to add some yellow to these outer regions of buds. So to heat set, you just low and dry. And you'll know it goes dry, it'll become opaque. Let it cool. We're just going to let it cool for a second so I can't feel it, but I know it's dry. And then I'm going to go in with the high heat, and I'm going to set it up. Now it has to cool down again. Oops. And then I'm going to come over top of it with just like a hint of red. And here you'll see that the red does not become orange. It stays a nice bold red on the leaf. It doesn't bleed in, it doesn't change. And had I done it the other way, and just to show you what I mean about the bleeding, because the red doesn't set up, when I grab some of this shimmery yellow and put it on, you're going to see the color completely change and move. So that's the difference between the two, is you won't get this extra blur in the middle. So we find it quite fun and fascinating. For example, I'm going to go in on this one and add just some really good greens. And even though I've colored everything yellow, my green stayed green. It did not blend into the yellow, and no bleeding, and all is good. See if I can show you there. And that is as simple as it gets. Now, if you ended up with a kit that had gemstones in the bottom, grab my little art bin of mess. So the gemstones are great for making your model on the bottom so that your egg will stand upright. And they're also great for not opening, so you don't have to worry about things popping open and getting lost. Okay, my glue gun. I'm just going to put just a little bit of glue on the bottom here. I need anyone. I'm waiting for the new Wagner glue guns to come available, in case you're curious. They can hold multiple sticks. So I really like that aspect. I'm just going to pick up some of that. Anyway, so I've added some glue, and then if you put a few gemstones on the bottom, this will then anchor your project to sitting upright and create just like a little weight to hold it the right direction at all times. Oops, don't push too hard on the bottom of your egg, just so you know. Anyway, then it gives it a little bit of a stand when it's on there. Oh shoot, now I broke the bottom. I will show you with a non-broken one that I have right here. Where did I put you, eggs? So here's a little one, bottom done. And then I can just set it and stand. And then it all will always look the same on everything. It'll always stay standing. So that's just a one way to add the bottom. So if you're wondering why those are in your kit, that's why. Also, we're going to go back now. I'm just going to clean off the most of the glue. And we're going to quickly assemble our board. So push all these out of the way because we don't need them. So to do this, you can pick whichever direction. I'm going to go this way so I have a line to work off of. I'm going to glue my cord onto the back. Pick a length that I like. Again, nothing too complicated here. My end into it. Back into my paintbrush. Burn my finger a little because that's what we do as artists. And just put a little bit more on. And I don't know how tall I want it. So I think about there should be good. Scissors. Repeat. I meant to send everyone a kit, a special anchor that can go get hammered onto the back. Then I forgot to send it. That's why I'm doing the glue gun technique, because you don't have the anchors, but you can buy them at the dollar store for super cheap. They're a little hook, a little triangle that you would just nail on. Again, super simple. So I'm just making sure my two cords are in there. That's how I did this one. So, and it hangs, I mean, it was hanging behind me. So it's, again, because of the light board, you can use any size, and you'll see that here. And I'll show you at the end behind me how it hangs, just with glue gun, because the board is so light, it's not such a big deal. I just want to make sure that this is set up. I also use hot glue guns because they set up quickly. And while it's just, I'm going to put this underneath to keep it from going down to the bottom. We are going to quickly add some stencil of circles. Pull up here. Okay, so then I'm just going to throw a few dots at random down. Again, using my brush, putting a little on my mat. And then I'm just going to stencil in where I want some of the circles, not all of them. I freehand. You can tape it down if you're a nervous stenciler. This is, again, not something that necessarily has to be perfect. You can have bits and pieces. So don't panic. I'm going to bring a big set down here. We'll see how much of that gets covered up by the art. But I like it. And we're going to come down here and do just like a little blob of bubbles. right off the page. I don't like everything to just free float. I like stuff that looks like it's coming in from nowhere as well. Maybe there. So this is the new Pam Bray spinning circles, I think it was called. Stencil, lots of circle stencils. Please support Pam if you can. If you have a circle stencil, that's okay. We get it. We just need stuff that we can work together on classes with. So if you're like, why would you create another circle stencil? That's why. Pam's also had a lot of variety in sizes, which I liked. And sorry, you're catching. I think I totally hit that. Anyway, you can see I'm working it through by just dumping onto the board. In case you're wondering why I keep knocking my camera. I just keep working it around. This one is Easter Parade. So it's a multicolor yellow. And we'll do it down here. So it didn't take very much to get some stencils on there. As you can see, I'm just going to do a good tap off just so you see what I do. Because everyone has their own take, and my take is you're not doing it wrong. You're doing it however you're comfortable, and that's what matters. I might be able to help you a little. All right. So here you go with the Easter Parade. You can see, I'm hoping I can show you the sparkling yellow. Let me see if I can shade it enough to get some better lighting. It's tough. There we go. That's a bit more yellow. So it's a yellow. It's got a little bit of like pastel pinks and greens and blues in it. And of course, a little sparkle shimmer. So it adds a nice pop to the project. And then to finish it, we just take all the layers that we have made. And we begin placing them. So this one I want to hook underneath and over top. So there, that's how I'm going to glue it down. So I will tack it. Move that in just a little, spread it out. Move this on just a little. That's why I had that extra piece there, because I knew I need a little bit of help grabbing. Curious. And then I'll just squeeze just a bit more on. The same goes for the ends of this one. They'll go on, but really quick and easy as I flip it over. That up a little wider. There we go. So that's now placed. Push to get it to set up. And then the technique, before I quickly do that, I'm going to take my brush with a bit of water on it. It's wet. So you just go like this across the back side of your paper. You hit it and it will curl the other direction. A little bit more in this area here because it's going to go. There we go. Now it's flattening. Now that it's flatter, I can, oh my goodness, did that just tape the whole thing wrong? I hope not. Now that it's flatter, it's going to be a lot easier to quickly. I'm going to use some high-tack adhesive dots for this one. And just put a whole bunch across the back side of my project here. Starting with the corners. You can use tape guns, you can use anything. Do not feel obligated to stick with what we're showing you. That's why these are the home tools. Because we want you to be able to take anything you have and recreate this project at home. And all that I ask is if you do go to show somebody what you've created and you use tips from this video, make sure you shout out, letting us know that you did. But there we go. And that's our board ready to go. We're going to switch back to the other camera now as our main camera. And hopefully we will now be able to, I'm hoping that my glue had set up. If it hasn't finished setting up properly, you will see that fall, and that's okay. Just want to thank everyone for having come and attended. I hope you had a lot of fun, learned some good techniques. If you have any questions, we will have the supply list listed so you can get the link and buy the kit. Again, you can do this with any project. So now that you've done it with this one, you change up your stencil, your stamp, your colors, and you can have signboards, you can have anything So it's just a fun way to quickly make something. In case you're curious, our boards are a balsa wood and they are super light. I have them custom made for me. That way they were cheaper to ship. Also, they are very strong, so they don't warp and bend like some of the other ones that you might get. I don't know if it's because it's a Canadian wood that my supplier sources from, but I get it from here. So anyway, I just want to say thanks for coming and tuning in. I hope you had a lot of fun, and we will see you. Oh yes, so with that, let me just quickly hold up the 2 eggs one more time. This one was just stamping in watercolors, teaching you how to do embossing on it. And then this was the actual real egg base stamps. So coming in close here so you can see all the different imagery. Anyway, I hope you had fun. I hope you learned a lot, and we will see you later. Thanks so much.